Hey everybody, welcome to That Guy's House Live at 5, and today we're here with Catherine Abbott-Jones, author of The Incredible, The Reluctant Alchemist. Yes!
Camera, I'm not good with cameras.
This book is finally here. We will get to it. This book has been a long time in the making. Catherine,
Yes.
Catherine, my friend now of many years throughout writing this book. Huge congratulations on this being released into the world. We just discussed before we went live, I said, Catherine, what do I introduce you as? Are you a coach? Are you a therapist? Are you a witch? And we just couldn't settle on it. So Catherine, what is the best way to describe who you are and the work you do in the world?
So, well, I mean, I guess you could say I'm just one big walking identity crisis, right?
Good. That's great.
I can't choose. No. My short answer to that is all of the above, and I think that's one of the things, and that's actually, funnily enough, one of the themes of The Reluctant Alchemist, right? Is the idea that we wear a lot of different hats. We have different roles, like right now I'm interviewing with you and I'm an author and I'm maybe a little bit of maybe I got a little bit of the witch thing going on. When I'm with my clients, I'm a trauma therapist, working with people who are struggling with anxiety and with trauma. When I'm with my kids, I'm a mom. When I'm with my mom, I'm a daughter. When I'm with my friends, hopefully I'm some fun,
Yeah. I can vouch for that. You are fun. Yeah.
So, and I think getting pigeonholed into like one thing or another is how is that fun for anybody? And it's not true, because we do all these different things. We are all of these different things. We embody all of these different things all the time. And we're constantly switching roles. So I'm all of those things.
I'm so glad you're all of those things. You are alchemy.
There you go.
There you go. Catherine, you have written this book. I believe that we first met to discuss this book back in 2017.
I think that's right. Yes.
And here we are. And the book was even in the making long before I knew about it. So here we are as 2020 draws to a close. Do you have any insight as to why the book has come out now, as opposed to, I'm the publisher of the book, by the way. Yes, so I can speak to my absolute pleasure. But I can speak to all the previous possible release dates we've had, yet here we are at the end of a year that has given us so much. I'm not saying it's good, I'm saying it's given us so much. Why do you feel this has been where the book has come out?
Well, in the short answer, I am one of those people, and it's starting to sound trite, I know, but I am one of those people who believe that everything happens for a reason and things happen when they're supposed to happen. So for me, this book is coming out now because this is when it's supposed to come out, right? It's 9 years in the making since the beginning of it, since the beginning of my journey. And that 9 years has not just been about writing a book. I mean, the writing of the book has been tied into, inextricably tied into my journey, my learning, my awakening, my, coming to understand that there's so much more out there than we often realize or are willing to open up to or accept. And so I couldn't be truly behind this book and in this place until I had released all of my fear about putting my story out there, until I had come to this place in my journey where I can, really authentically own everything that has happened to me, that is happening to me, that I'm doing, that I want to do, that I want to share, the ways in which I hope to help people, if that's possible, because that's really the ultimate goal, right? So that's, I don't know if did that answer your question?
It does. And it definitely brings me on to what was my first question, but you and I will talk about everything. This book is a fiction, and to the naked eye, anyone could pick it up and read it as a piece of spiritual fiction, but it's also kind of not a fiction. Can you speak to that at all?
Sure. I think there's a number of reasons for that. I think originally probably fear was part of it, that I was afraid to put out there things that had really happened to me that people wouldn't believe, and that was what I think originally drove me to tell the story through an avatar, through another character, right? And the character of Morgan Gardner, who is the protagonist in the story. Then there is the other part that, I'm from New Orleans. I'm a Southerner to some degree. And at least in terms of being a storyteller, we're storytellers. We love to tell a good story. And I didn't want, I wanted to be able to tell a really good story. And not to say that my story wasn't a good story in my mind, but I thought it could be more fun and there could be more elements to it, right? So, and besides the fact that the other realization that I came to as I worked on this journey for 9 years was that anything's possible, right? I mean, if magic is real, if we really let go of everything we think is true, of everything we think we know, of everything we think we've learned, if we really let go of all that, anything that happens in this book, in this story, is absolutely possible.
Yeah.
And so to blur the lines of what really happened and what maybe happened or what could have happened or who knows what happened.
It's so interesting. Yeah.
It's more fun, right?
And it's so much more fun. And you know what I lean into all of the time? This quantum physics belief that the universe is so big and vast that anything that could happen is happening right now. And I lean into that so much. There's something about that thought that just brings me so much soothing and comfort. And I guess this book, like we said, it's fiction, but it's also not. And actually, for anyone who's going to pick up this book and read it, great Christmas read, by the way, Fireplace, Christmas Tree, because it's got them fictional elements. Yeah, you get to decide. You know what one of my favorite books is? Life of Pi. And that is very much what you've said. It's like, does the fiction story make a better story? And what's true is up to you. So yeah, that's exactly what you've got here. So awesome. Speaking of the main character, Morgan Gardner, what is her story? What is the dragon she has to slay, so to speak? What is the arc she goes? What is her adventure that happens between the pages of this book?
So what happens to Morgan Gardner is Morgan is, sort of a typical housewife in a lot of ways, right? She's been married for a while. The marriage is kind of on the rocks. She's got 2 kids. The thing that makes it maybe a little bit spicier, and certainly is something I'm drawing from my own experience, is she's an expat housewife in London. And I think that also puts her in a place of being in kind of a surreal place, because she's not at home. She's not in a place that she's grown up or that she knows well. And so she's out of her element, if you will. And then she's out of her element in terms of like the parts of her life that she thought were solid and that she could always depend on are starting to break away from her. And at that moment in her life, she has an experience where a stranger speaks to her telepathically in a London restaurant. And that sets her off on a journey of discovery, that she actually has magical powers that she didn't realize that she had. And this is something that I believe, like, we all have the ability to tap into this, and you can call it magic, you can call it intuition, you can call, whatever you want to, it doesn't matter to me what your name for it is, but we all have this within us. We all have this divinity within us. If only we acknowledge it and allow for it and allow it to come out. But there's a lot of fear attached to it. So through the course of the story, Morgan has to confront her own fears, not only about herself, about her life as it exists on this plane, in terms of, where she's going to live and what she's going to do and if she's going to be married or not and how she negotiates being a mom. But she has to confront her own shadows and her own demons in order to truly become herself and own who she is, so that she can be truly happy and be the best version of herself that she can be.
Wow. And what's real and what's not's up to the reader, huh?
And
it's all real in the alternate universe of Morgan Gardner anyway.
Oh, it's very real.
Yeah. Bringing it back down to Catherine Jones's life, anyone who has a copy of the book will see it says the author is Leela Das through Catherine Jones. Right. I'm just going to get comfortable while you tell us about that.
Okay. So one of the things that happens to Morgan, and something that I've experienced too, is that she begins to communicate with spiritual guides, right?
Yeah.
She begins to, and that starts with, listening to your intuition and then following that. And the more that you listen to your own intuition, it's like a muscle that you use, right? So the way that I would explain, well, let me back up. So Leela Das, right? The Leela of the universe. It's a Sanskrit term for the play of the universe, right?
Okay.
For the sacred game of the universe. And that ultimately is creation. And I'm Reader's Digesting this in a big way. Okay. So any Sanskrit scholars out there, don't come after me, please. Mm. Das means devotee of or servant of. So loosely translated, Leela Das is servant of the game, right?
Oh, wow.
So if you think of, and one of the things, this also ties into the work that I do with clients. One of the things that I try to emphasize is that it's much easier to deal with things if you think of all of this as a game. It's just a big game, right? And we have different roles. We take on different, like we talked about earlier, right? So sometimes in the Monopoly game, I'm the guy with the top hat, or I'm the little dog, right?
Yeah.
And it's a game. And so if I'm the servant of the game, I'm playing a game. I'm trying to figure out where I need to go next and what I need to do and how I'm going to win that $200 or whatever, how I'm going to make that turn around the board. Leela Das is the best version of me. I am embodying that essence when I am in the zone, right? Wow, when I'm truly joyful, when I'm doing what makes me really happy, like when I'm writing. If you're someone who writes, or someone who plays music, or someone who gardens, or someone who loves to hike, or whatever it is that makes you feel truly yourself, that allows you to really get in touch with you, like that. So I've given her a persona, right? And so Leela Das is the best essence of me. And she is who I am when I am the best version of myself. And when I'm connected into that zone and I'm connected to her, then this creativity, writing the book becomes super easy. Working with clients becomes super easy. It's all you just know what to do. You just know where to go. And, it's sort of like another way to think of it. I think about when I used to sail as a child, and when you catch the wind just the right way and the wind hits the sail and you hit that slot with the tiller and everything just goes smoothly and you just go. That's who Leela Das is. My go. She's when I'm in the slot.
And I just love, so Leela Das is the best version of you. So when you're playing the game in flow, you're the best version of yourself. It's so interesting because I've been chatting about this recently. So many of us are on a spiritual path. We want inner peace. We want enlightenment. But it's actually, from my experience, it's hard to get them things unless you're fulfilling some kind of function in the world or in the game. So I do really love how I didn't know Leela Das translated as that. And I do love it means servant of the game. And we've spoken about this all the time. We've compared life to the lottery. We've compared life to a casino. It's one of our regular chats. But yeah, to belong to the game or the illusion of life in some way, it also stops you taking it so seriously. I think it's really cool. Yeah. Awesome. I love this. Servant of the game. And I know just something else Catherine and I are speaking about behind the scenes is a game.
A game.
So yeah, so it's all the more awesome to hear all of this. One of the ways you serve the game, as you discussed earlier on, you're a trauma therapist. and I've always been really fascinated by the unique style of therapy that you give. And correct me if I'm wrong here, it's rapid eye movement therapy.
So it's called accelerated resolution therapy. It does use REM eye movements or simulated REM eye movements as part of the work. It's essentially, the way it works out, I describe it as sort of a guided meditation with the simulated REM eye movements, and the use of the simulated REM eye movements allows us to talk to the amygdala directly, which is what's in charge of our anxiety.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So because the amygdala, MIGI for short, MIGI doesn't speak in words, right? MIGI is not logical. MIGI speaks in images and body sensations and feelings. And so when we're able to use imagery and guided meditation, and we process out negative body emotions and sensations that are associated with particular images, then we can bring down anxiety, we can release trauma, and people can get more peace so that they can get to a place where they can be more in the flow and play the game and be able to step back and not take it so seriously, because it doesn't feel like a threat anymore.
So trauma is something you deal with on the daily, I assume.
Yes.
Is there anywhere the theme of trauma meets with the birth of this book, in your personal life or in the story of the character of Morgan Gardner?
Well, I mean, I certainly have had some personal experience with trauma. So that always informs you, once you have experienced trauma of any kind, that always informs really everything that you do one way or another. In the book, Morgan's daughter becomes seriously ill with a mysterious problem, and Morgan has to figure things out in order to save her daughter. So there is certainly the threat of trauma there. And I think sometimes, and certainly my experience with my clients is that you would not wish trauma on anyone, but when we are pressed to our extreme, when we are thrown against the wall, that is often a time when we really, when it's down to the wire, that's when your strength, your courage, your magic, that's when that comes out. That's when you really get to see it, and you can hold on to it and push through and say, I can do this, and you might need a hand and you might need a help, but that's when it's the diamond and the coal thing, right? It's like, when it's under pressure, that's when the beauty comes out. That's when it explodes. That's when creativity and beauty and strength and courage really show themselves. So I feel incredibly privileged to work with the courageous people that come to me and that want to deal with horrible things that have happened to them, or just with terrible anxiety that they struggle with, that prevents them from really digging into their magic and living their best lives.
It's so true. I do think if channeled in the right way with a professional, trauma becomes the fuel to everything. Do you think we all have trauma?
I often have, when clients come to me, they'll often say, they'll downplay their own trauma, no matter what it was. And they'll say, oh, I don't really feel, I feel other people have it worse than me. Other people have horrible things that have happened to them. And I don't feel like, I don't feel like my trauma is so terrible. Well, trauma is trauma to you. If it's traumatic to you, if it's causing you anxiety, if it's stopping you from doing things that you love to do or that you want to do or that you wish you could do, then it's a problem. And no reason not to, then it's a challenge. I don't like to, the problem's not a great word. It's a challenge that you can, and if you're asking for help and ready to move on from that, do it, because that, there's no scale. Right? Mm-hmm. There's no scale of trauma. If it's stopping you from doing something, then deal with it. Then call it trauma. It doesn't matter what it's called.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I'm not shy to use the word trauma. So yeah.
Good.
So
I don't think anybody should be, because two people can be standing on a street corner and a terrible wreck can happen, and one person can walk away and go, "Oh, I'm going to say prayers for those people. That's terrible." And the other person can lose sleep and then be unable to get in a car. I mean, we're all affected by stuff that happens to us very, very differently, and that's okay. We're all unique, and that's part of the beauty of us. So.
Well, that's part. Oh gosh, God, we could get really philosophical here. It's a shame we're not on the same time zone, because these conversations are best for when the sun's gone down, which it has here in the UK. But that even shows more that we're in a game, because the exact same thing can happen to two people and the experience be completely different. So it's the internal game. I love conversations like this. Thank you for being you. So, author of The Reluctant Alchemist, trauma therapist, playful witch, and I'm really excited to say soon online talk show host, because you're going to be doing you're going to be doing a series called What's Your Weird Story, where you sit down with people and you hone in on one crazy story that happened to them. Where did that talk show idea come from? I think it's great.
Well, actually, it came from the book, right? Because this is my weird story, or this is a collection of some of my weird stories. And so I want to hear other people's weird stories, because like I said, I mean, part of this, so the title of The Reluctant Alchemist is the idea that we're all reluctant alchemists, that we're all afraid. I think it was Marianne Williamson that said, we're more afraid of our own light than we are of our own shadow, right?
Yeah.
That we're afraid to shine out there and really be who we are. We are reluctant to be our own alchemist. So for me, the idea is I want to talk to people from all different walks of life and to get their weird story, to show that everybody has a weird story. We all have this connection to the weird, to the magic, and whether that's a ghost story or a psychic story or telepathic story or an intuition story or whatever it is. I want to hear it, and I want to put you on my show, and let's have some fun.
So people can watch that through here at that guy's house, but also through your personal Facebook. So,
exactly. Yes.
Yeah. I'm reading a book right now. It's called Missing Out. It's too much to get into, but it's about this whole idea of the unlived life that didn't happen, and we can tie that into. But somewhere in the universe it is happening. However, the only reason I'm thinking of that is, hearing what you just said. This book says that the purpose of life is actually to evaluate how much life we can bear and how much we then decide to numb ourselves off from it. So, yeah, Marianne Williamson, it's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. How much life are you willing to live, and how much are you deciding to numb yourself off? And do you want to know what? Stepping into the world, putting it down as a book, being an author, that is definitely not a way you numb off. That is definitely a way you give yourself to the world. So thank you so much. It's my honor to be the publisher of this book. I'm so glad it took as long as it did, because it formed this awesome relationship you and I have.
Absolutely.
How the book came out 2 years ago, So I'm thrilled. Huge congratulations on the book. It's 5 p.m. in the UK, so here's to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not going to drink it because I actually don't like Prosecco, as we discussed.
Get some Kier in there. Get some Kirsch in there.
I'll make them from book launches onwards. I'll have to do something because I just don't like it. But it's just nice to toast to. I guess. Well, I've got two final questions. One is book number 2, fiction or nonfiction?
Ooh, that's a great question. I have the feeling it will probably be something similar in that, fiction and there's a line crossing here, nonfiction.
Oh, I think you've invented a whole new genre. Yeah.
Nonfiction fiction book.
I was good at nonfiction fiction. I think you have invented a whole genre, and I think I know that. And anyone who's watching this on Facebook who sees the description, I think I wrote Catherine Abbott Jones discusses her fiction/nonfiction.
There you go.
because it's incorrect to call it either. So sorry, I think you've invented your own genre. So is that what's come? Yeah, more of that. Yeah, and I look forward to this is something I know we've discussed, and it will come at the perfect time, as this book did. You know, you working with other people to avatar themselves to share their story, as we'll leave it to the reader to determine if that's what you did with this character of Morgan Gardner. So thank you so much for birthing this book into the world. Everybody, it is available now anywhere books are sold, online and in bookstores at request. Perfect Christmas read. It's uplifting, it's raw, it's exciting. It's just perfect. So I'm so glad it's in the world now. Catherine, where can people find you to work with you more?
So if people want to connect with me, they can find me at leeladas.com, LILADAS.com. And sorry?
I was going to say AKA Servant of the Game.
AKA Game, the Playful Witch. Yes, there I am.
Catherine, thank you so much for this book. Thank you so much for all you do. And hey, we'll do this again in 2021.
I'm looking forward to it, darling.
Me too.
Right. Thank you. Bye.